So all that research you did on the internet, but when it came down to actual writing, how did you do that? You use the pen and the paper, the traditional way of writing, or you chose the laptop as your weapon?
Yeah, the pen and the paper.
The pen and the paper. Why that? Because most youngsters nowadays, they basically use laptops and mobile phones. Why do you do that?
I did try using a laptop, but most of the times instead of writing, I was just playing games on it. So my mother would actually come over to see what I was doing, and then I would quickly just shut that window. My brother was actually the only person who realized what I was doing. Well, because he does that as well.
Okay, I think most of us do that. Hello and welcome to Outlook Bibliofile. So today my guest is only 16-year-old, but with his new book, Where Satan Rules, he's here to give serious authors a run for their money. So let us welcome Prabhav Bhagat on the show. Hi Prabhav.
Hello.
So firstly, let me give you a description about the book. So now this is a book which is about a American teenage boy who goes on this adventure. It's a fantasy novel, and he goes on to unravel the secret mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. So it's a fantastic read. Prabhav, congratulations for that. So the first question that came to my mind was that you're just 16 and you've come up with this book. How does it make you feel?
I feel pretty excited about it actually. It's quite an accomplishment. I believe it to be quite an accomplishment, and I'm pretty nervous about it, about how where it will be received.
All right. So this is the first book, and I'm sure Bloomsbury is publishing it. How did that make you feel?
I was actually pretty thrilled about it because I'm a huge fan of Harry Potter.
Yeah, of course.
So Bloomsbury was actually my first choice. I did send it to other publishers, but when Bloomsbury accepted it, I went with them.
Rejections which you faced initially, did that put your morale down, or did you feel that, oh, my book isn't good enough? Any of those feelings? Could you take us through that?
Not really, because first of all, I'd already written it. There wasn't much I could do about it anymore. So it didn't affect me. The rejection didn't really affect me that much. And also, they claimed that the reason why they rejected it was because the book isn't connected to India that very much. And it's a fact, it really isn't. The protagonist is an American, and the main story occurs in the Bermuda Triangle. So that was the issue. So I didn't really care that much about it.
So about Bloomsbury, how did that make you feel? When did you get to know it? How long did it take to respond?
About half a year. It's quite a long process.
Oh, take us through that. Tell me about it. What happened?
First of all, I sent out an email. I believe I got a response after about a month or so that it had crossed the initial stage, and then they were going to read it once again. So I believe I had to send the first 3 chapters initially for them to just get a feel of the novel, and then I had to send the rest of it. Also, I believe it was also checked for plagiarism.
Oh, achha, is that
well, they check all novels for plagiarism, I believe. Oh. They have plagiarism checkers which scan the novel. So they have a database of all the novels, and then they kind of compare it to their database.
So I'm sure this before this novel, any other publications or any other foray into writing that you did before this novel actually came up?
I used to write short stories actually, and a couple of them were published by the Children's Book Trust magazine, Children's World.
So you were always writing this book was always in the plans, or it just happened suddenly?
No, it actually took a long time to write it. I wrote it in bits and pieces, so it just didn't happen suddenly. It was a very long process.
So I'm sure that since the book is largely about the Bermuda Triangle and the mysteries behind it, so what got you so attracted to that Bermuda Triangle and its mysteries that you thought that, oh, I should write a book about it?
I believe it's a topic that captures everybody's imagination. It's also pretty easy to write about, as nobody can even verify whether it's true or not, and I doubt anybody is going to actually come up with a theory that properly explains what's happening there. And one of the first books that I had read was about the Bermuda Triangle also. My mother had issued it from the British Council Library. It was one of those thin books, with those glossy pages. Okay. I had read that, and that contained all the information I needed. So that actually got me thinking about the Bermuda Triangle.
When was this? Like, when did you actually come across that book? How old were you?
Around 8 or 9.
8 or 9. So that's when you thought that, oh, this is an interesting topic, and then you researched about it.
No, I was actually a bit too young to research about it properly then.
So when did you actually think that, oh, I should, spin a tale around Bermuda Triangle?
A few years later, I believe, around when I was 10 or 11 or
so at that stage, did you think about it as just a story that you're writing, or you did conceptualize it as a novel?
No, I did visualize it as a novel.
Really? So, as you said in your lately, that the book was easy to write about Bermuda Triangle, but I believe that it was quite difficult because most of it, around 80% of the book was like based on imagination. So, are you blessed with an imaginative mind? Would you say so?
I don't know really.
So, how did those, for instance, when I was reading it, I got reminded of a lot of hints of, Alice in Wonderland, some sort of Eragon. I don't know whether you've read Eragon or not. Christopher Paolini, have you read?
No.
So Eragon, and then a lot of Robinson Crusoe also came up.
Yeah, that's because all these novels feature shipwreck and all that.
So were you aware of these novels? Have you read these novels before this?
Yeah, of course I've read Alice in Wonderland, though I really don't feel it's connected to it.
Of course it's not connected to it, but it had a little bit of hints of it. So that's like a compliment basically. So your work is inspired by those novels, would you say?
Not by Alice in Wonderland surely, but by a few other novels maybe.
So you're fond of reading, is it?
Yes, definitely.
Which books do you read?
I've read several. It's hard to name any one of them. My favorite authors would probably be Jonathan Stroud. Have you heard of Jonathan Stroud?
Tell me about him.
He's actually written a series called Lockwood & Co. Okay. So that is about an alternate reality in which London is in which the entire England, the entire world is actually infested by ghosts, and in the United Kingdom it's actually a plague. So there are certain agents who are trying to fight this plague and to end it. It's actually about that.
Okay, so that book fascinated you a lot?
I like it a lot.
So, is this genre of science fiction and supernatural fantasy novels, is that some genre which you feel connected to, or you feel more inclined towards?
Probably because most of the books I read are of that genre only. I never really thought about it actually.
Probably. Okay. So, and apart, for instance, coming to the book, now where did the title come from, Where Satan Rules?
At the end of the book, the protagonist actually says that God's will presides even there where Satan rules. So I've just deleted the first outline and used the rest.
And I also found that there were a lot of theological references in the book, right from Greek mythology to biblical references. You are interested in theology? Could you tell me about it a little bit? How did Greek mythology, when did you start researching, because not many youngsters I think would be interested in because Greek mythology, for instance, is very, very complex.
No, Greek mythology, most of the people of my age, most of the kids of my age would be very interested in because of Percy Jackson.
Oh, because of Percy. Okay, so you read Percy Jackson?
I read when I was around 10 or 11.
Okay.
I liked it at that time. I don't like it that much now. I've
Alright.
grown over it.
So which are the books that you're reading nowadays?
The most recent book I read was probably The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu, and The Dark Forest, which is its sequel.
Okay, tell me about Greek mythology. How did you research about the book?
Most of the facts that I use in the book come from the internet. So that's the most easily available source of information. So most of them come from there. Like I used most of the names are actually from there only. Like there's an Amazon in the book.
Yeah.
So her name also I had to research. The name actually means Ptolema actually means goddess of war, I believe.
Yeah.
She's some goddess of war.
So all that research you did on the internet, but when it came down to actual writing, how did you do that? You use the pen and the paper, the traditional way of writing, or you chose the laptop as your weapon?
Yeah, the pen and the paper.
The pen and the paper. Why that? Because most youngsters nowadays, they basically use laptops and mobile phones. Why do you do that?
I did try using a laptop, but most of the times instead of writing, I was just playing games on it. So my mother would actually come over to see what I was doing, and then I would quickly just shut that window. My brother was actually the only person who realized what I was doing. Well, because he does that as well.
Okay, I think most of us do that. So and the other thing which is interesting is that like you're obviously in school, and it's your among your prime of the age where you have to study a lot. Your boards coming up and your career on one side. So how did you think about writing a book and managing your studies all at once? How did you do that?
I had written it a long time ago when I was in the 8th grade or in the 9th grade. So
basically you started on the book when you were in 8th grade.
Yeah.
All right.
So studies weren't that important at that time. So I was it really wasn't that much that big a problem.
Oh, you could easily juggle between the two. Oh, that's nice. So while you were writing, as you said, that your mother would come and you would be playing games and you would just shut the window. So did you take your writing as a work or a job which you had to do, or it was more like it's a hobby where you can actually kill time as well as
Probably a hobby.
Probably a hobby.
Just something to occupy my mind when I wasn't doing anything else.
There are a lot of very historical references as well as geographical references as well. Like you talk about astronomy, a lot about ships. So how tell me about it. Are your interest in it, and how did you get to research about all of that?
I actually, there's a lot of reference to ships, as the protagonist is the son of a sailor primarily, and also because the Bermuda Triangle being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there's only one way to reach it.
That's what I figured. So now once you have this book behind you now, I'm sure you did. How do your friends react to it? Do they know about the book? Obviously they must.
They do. They were aware of it for a long time actually. I sometimes used to write it when I was in school because many times I didn't feel like studying at school, and I used it as a way to kill time there also.
Okay, so you used to write while you were in school as well. Cutting classes are writing, or you
in the class?
In the class you used to sit and write. Your teachers never noticed that you were doing that?
One of my teachers did once.
Okay. So then tell me about when you used to write, did anybody proofread, like your parents, your siblings? Did you send
my
them?
father did.
You used to send them drafts?
I actually used to write a bit of the novel, and then Papa would get it printed, and then he used to proofread it.
All right.
because my handwriting is rather illegible. So one page would have at least 20 corrections.
How frequently did that exercise take place?
Several times. The whole book must have been corrected at least 4 times.
At least 4 times before you actually
Sent it to the publishers.
All right. So now tell me about the process of writing. Like, I have never written more than a news report. So how did the story evolve? How did you think about Mike Carterson and then Alex and their journey? Or how tell me about it. How did it come to you initially, or while you were writing you thought that okay, I can add certain bits and elements to it?
Yeah, while I was writing, I kept on improvising. So I wrote about 2 or 3 versions of it, and I just and I kept on editing them till I was finally satisfied with what I had written.
So apart from any advice that you would like to give to youngsters who would wish to pursue a career in writing?
Wouldn't that be a little presumptuous?
It would be presumptuous, but then you've done a commendable job. Didn't you say that you've accomplished something?
I would say that you have to believe in yourself, that you have to believe that you can actually do it. While I was writing initially, I used to wonder whether it would actually get published or not, and whether I was just wasting my time writing it. But at some point I realized that even if it doesn't get published, it doesn't matter, and it would be better if I just finished writing it.
So initially it did not come to you that this is something which actually I can go ahead and publish it with?
I was always dubious about it.
Okay. So any other book that is in line after this, or you're going to now enjoy your time in the sunshine right now?
I am thinking of a sequel.
You're thinking of a sequel to this? All right. When would you start working on it? Have you already started working on it?
No, I don't know.
Tell me about the time when what was the first book that you remember reading?
The first book? I don't know. Those. Do you mean those little tiny books?
Yeah, because I remember that when I started reading, it was always the cliched Famous Five and Percy Bysshe Shelley. Not Percy Bysshe Shelley. Basically, Famous Five. Basically, Enid Blyton that came to my mother used to give it to me. So I that's how I took to reading. What got you into reading?
My mother also introduced me to the same novels, like Secret Seven and Five Find Outers and those sorts of novels. But after having read them, I moved on to
the science fiction stuff, which sort of thought that this is more interesting. All right. So Prabhav, thank you for joining us and speaking to us. And I wish you all the very best for this book and the launch. And I hope that there are many other books that we'll see soon from your side. This is Sanya Ashraf signing off from Outlook's Bibliophile, and keep watching for more videos. Thank you so much.